Hi, everybody. We are really pleased to be hosting this webinar this morning, and thank you for coming along. The topic today is the role of an end-of-life doula, and we're really pleased to be joined by Judy Knox and Mariana Garcia from the organisation End of Life Doula UK. So a brief introduction for anyone who doesn't know me. I'm Alice. I work in the support services team here at Overcome. And the support service are absolutely here for you. We have a phone line. You can give us a call. You can get in touch with us via email. You can even arrange a one-to-one Zoom meeting with a member of our team. And hopefully you're aware that Overcome host lots of webinars such as this, as well as our offering of support groups and workshops as well. Workshops being things like creative writing, crafts, music, and so on. So just a space really to connect with others affected by ovarian cancer. You can get in touch with us with a particular question, with a piece of information that you might be looking to find, or actually just to have a bit of a chat and to talk things through. We're absolutely here for all of that. So please do, get in touch with us if you'd like to talk. Our team are available Monday to Friday from 10 until 5. So I am really pleased, as I say, to welcome Judy and Mariana from End of Life Doula UK. I'm not going to say too much because I think they'll do a much better job of introducing the topic than I will, and what an end of life doula is all about. But they're here really to talk to us about the role that an end of life doula can play in supporting those with a terminal diagnosis, as well as their loved ones as well. So I will pass over to Judy and Mariana, who will guide us through their presentation. Thanks both.
Oh, thank you, Alice. Hi, everybody. We are really excited to be here with you today to speak about end-of-life doulas and what we do. So I'm Mariana Garcia, a psychologist and an end-of-life doula, and with me is Judy. Judy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the webinar. Always very happy to talk about the role that we play. As Mariana said, I'm Judy Knox. I've been an end-of-life doula for 5 years. I finished my training 5 years ago, which I absolutely adored, and was pretty much hooked from the first day of training, actually. I've met some amazing people along the way. And one of the things that I always feel incredibly privileged is that our clients really teach us so much, and it's a privilege to work with them and be with them and their families and their loved ones. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I live in London. Don't know whether that's relevant or not. Thanks, Mariana.
Thank you, Judy. I live in Chesterfield, and I'm from Colombia, so my accent is because I'm Latin American, by the way. So today we are going to have a 60 minutes talk, including questions at the end. We're going to speak about what is an end-of-life doula and what we do, with individuals on a one-to-one basis, but also in a community and with other organizations. And then at the end, we're going to give some examples of what we do, and we're going to have some time for questions. So that's the idea for today. We're going to start with Judy introducing us to what we do then.
So the concept of an end-of-life doula isn't new. Maybe just that term is. Traditionally, long time ago, people dying was also part of the community, rather than being supported by national organisations such as Overcome. Sadly, and I think part of this which is wonderful, but the invention of the NHS meant that communities really started to become separated from everyday death and medicalised. So people went to hospital for treatment, but ended up dying in hospital. So it was taken away from their communities and their families. We do often have to myth bust, because we do an awful lot more than hold vigil, which I think when we explain to people that we're end-of-life doulas or companions at the end of life, people think of us sitting quietly by somebody's bedside during the last days and hours of their life. But actually, we do an awful lot more. We do hold vigil a lot of the time, but we can also offer practical, emotional, and spiritual support, and not only to the person that's dying, but to their loved ones, their family and friends, whoever they've got around them as a support network. Or indeed, if somebody has nobody, we then have a very, very important role to play. We work with the homeless. So, you know, anybody that feels they need an end-of-life doula, we will support. We can also advocate and coordinate for our clients. So, you know, perhaps where they don't quite understand the vagaries and what happens within the structure of the NHS or their doctor's surgery or treatment that they're supposed to be going through, we can help them with that and help communicate for them if they're not able to do that. Thank you, Mariana. I was going to go on to the next slide, which is, as I said, death's really become institutionalized and part of the NHS. And with that, I think fear has grown amongst communities, and people are very, very scared about talking about death and dying. It's a little bit like, you know, when very young people don't want to talk about pregnancy because they think, oh my goodness, if I talk about this, I'm going to get pregnant. And it's very similar, I think, with death and dying. But one of my real keen sort of wishes as an end-of-life doula is to try and normalize conversations around death and dying, and try and perhaps lessen the fear that people have about talking about death and dying, because it's become such a taboo in our society. And I think that's really sad. So I think the more we can get people to understand that it's okay to talk about death and dying, and it is okay to talk about your fears. But often I think expressing that and having a forum in which to talk about that can be very helpful. We know how very overstretched our health and social care systems are. The pandemic certainly underlined that. And so I think, again, now people are looking to their own communities to help support those who are perhaps at end of life and to care for them. We say we like bookends with birth doulas, which a lot of people have heard of, more so than end of life doulas. So birth doulas are at the beginning of life and we're at the end of life. And as one of our patrons, Dr. Catherine Mannix, says, you know, there are 2 days in everybody's life that are not 24 hours. And those 2 days are the day we're born and the day we die. And that is the same for absolutely everybody. We work in people's homes, we can work in hospices, in care homes, in hospitals, and we're trying to work with healthcare professionals so that they can really understand that we want to work alongside them. We're there to help, and we're there to help organizations as well as families and people who are at the end of life. We can guide people through any decisions and choices that need to be made. We can act as a point of contact for other services and kinds of support. So for doctors, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, whoever is involved in that sort of group of care for somebody's treatment. We also are not always necessarily there, if you like, and this is going to sound strange given that we're called end-of-life doulas, but we're not there necessarily at the end of life. So we can be contacted, really, if somebody has a terminal diagnosis and they just feel, oh my goodness, I don't know what this means, I don't know what to do, sort of help, and then we'll get contacted. And often we can have maybe 2 or 3 conversations with that person, and then they say, okay, thanks, that's, that's really helpful, but I think I'm okay for the moment. And perhaps 2 or 3 years down the line, they may contact us, or they may not, or their friends and family contact us. So it's a movable feast, if you like. We can help people, as I said before, navigate through the health and social care systems, because, as we all know, it's a minefield, and it's really mind-boggling, and it's different geographically in every part of the country. Things work in very different ways. So it's really helpful, I think, to have somebody local who perhaps understands a little more than you do. And before I did my training, I had no idea about how things worked. So that can really help and take the pressure off people, and take the pressure off their families as well. We can provide hands-on care, but it depends very much on the doula. So some doulas are very happy to do what we call personal care, depending on their background. A lot of our doulas are trained nurses or physios or occupational therapists, but I have to emphasize, we are not medical people. So we never profess to be any medical professionals. We're not treading on medical professionals' toes, but sometimes a doula will be happy to provide more personal care than perhaps others are happy to do. We can help with housework, we can help prepare meals, walk the dog, anything that a family might need help with, again, that the doula is happy to do, we will do. Again, domestic admin, but also sitting with the person who's end of life and holding space for them, which sometimes families and friends will find difficult. We're also very, very happy, and this is a lot of our work, is actually having conversations and listening. It's very difficult for someone who's had a terminal diagnosis to actually be heard, because a lot of the time, their loved ones will try and gee them along. And if they want, it's a very lonely place. If they want to actually talk openly and honestly about how they're feeling, having had a diagnosis, their families actually don't want to hear it. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to accept it. So we're very, very much there for that. And we're there for everybody. We're there for the person who's had the diagnosis. We're there for their family. We're there for their friends. And we don't just disappear once that person's died. We are there before, during, and after death. So thank you, Lee. Can I have, now the next slide is a little film, and I don't know, hopefully it'll work. But this is a lovely doula who spent time with her client, and I think this shows you how we work.
I'll just squeeze in here, if I may. Place of death and surroundings.
Here.
Here. So again, this is at the expense of the quality of life. You wouldn't want to receive the life-sustaining treatment.
I see. Yes.
Which is so unlikely at this point.
Any of the life-sustaining treatment for any of that list you gave.
No.
Yeah. My lovely doula is here. I'm going to get off the phone, but thanks. Lots of love. Bye. For 67 years, I've been running around like a 20-something, cycling, going to the allotment, working in Neil's yard, all this physical activity, and suddenly it's not happening.
Is it a strange thought to feel that Lanzarote could be your last trip abroad?
Yes, I'm very aware that it will be.
Are there any conversations that you feel need to happen?
If I thought I was in my last few days, I would get my sister over and say I'm not leaving this world with a bitter taste, no hard feelings.
I'm thinking of just asking my mates up there to, do some sandwiches and bits and pieces rather than get caterers in. It's, you never know how many people are going to a funeral, do you? Because you can't send out invites. Well, I might actually be able to send out invites before I go. I'm not expecting a huge amount of time between now and death, but what I do want is a relatively good quality of life.
And you said probably pretty clear about what you want and what you don't want.
That's nothing to do with your illness.
It should always be.
That's to do with the person you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
And that's good. I had to go away from death and dying for a little while
Yeah.
when I had this, you know, and I just thought
I can understand that.
just for a little while, just leave it alone.
But I'd had 5 months of chemo-free
Thinking you were cancer free.
and cancer-free, and my boys and I went up to see the Northern Lights, which was great. Matt and Fee are having their formal registry office in Exeter. I'm not buying an outfit on the basis that it'd be a bit of a waste of money. And then I've just got a nice beanie for when we're in the hotel.
That sounds lovely.
You know, it's likely to be the last time that the family get together as a complete family, isn't it? But that's wrong. That's what upsets me most, is leaving the boys behind.
Yeah, I know.
I don't mind leaving John behind.
Yeah. It's have the balance, you know. You do quite a bit in the day, getting out and stuff, but let your body rest and stuff. And slow down. Good. That's great.
First time you've been blindfolded, Mike?
Yeah. I normally walk around with my eyes closed at half the time.
With the work that I do, I feel quite energetically sensitive to people. You can have a heartfelt connection and energy with someone and have it flow, but, you know, be mindful that you don't sponge up too much of someone else's pain or negativity.
Any distractions that come in, just allow them to be there. And just observe your reaction to what happens within.
I'm really okay with it all. I don't mind going to the other place. I'm quite excited. It's an exciting journey. Everything's been doable. It's just this last week. Rebecca's coming back with me to help me up the stairs. I feel absolutely on the borderline. It's really only because I've got Lanzarote in my calendar that I'm sort of holding out. And crunch time will come. And it'll be a relief.
I'm at an advanced stage with my health, I've been told. My brother's dying as well, I'm thinking about him. But he's got to the stage now where he just sits and watches telly all day. The only thing we're connected in is talking about football and sharing a few jokes, really. You know, nothing deep, really.
It's nice to have these connections with people.
Yeah, I've found over the last few days I don't seem to be battling as much. I want to ask you why I'm not feeling more contented.
That's up to you. You're the
I'm looking for a set answer now.
You are the holder of your happiness.
I would never have got around to this, Rebecca, if you hadn't drawn this all up. I have no idea what I'm signing here.
It's exactly as I emailed.
Just trust you.
You did check it.
Now my flat belongs to you.
Yeah. Enjoy. I'll give you a shout if you need help on the way
It's been
back.
a great day so far.
Good.
That's lovely, thanks.
Because when she falls asleep on her phone and mashes all the keys, don't you?
I've had some calls at funny times of the night. The other night I had one of you and you were snoring, darling. Do you believe in any afterlife?
I'm not sure, Ali. I think it's like having a baby, isn't it? You know?
What, you just don't know what it's going to be. I like that. I like that.
It's just a very strange feeling, bringing somebody into the world.
When you're in bed like this, time is just odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Days drift into another day, into another day.
The red that's in here is really pretty.
It's red is Christmassy.
Yeah.
And then after Christmas, then back to blue and white.
Yeah.
And then we start to drift into spring, don't you? So like blue and whites and yellows and the bulbs and everything. I love that then. I love that time of the year. Then,
Shall we catch the dying rays?
Do you want the bed moved over?
No, there isn't time for that. There's thousands and thousands of prayers written on those.
Wow.
Each one is different. The wind takes the prayers everywhere. And the more worn they are, the more powerful they are.
Love it.
Still there, still there. Calm.
So a little earlier, I was just talking about all the different ways in which doulas can work. And a lot of doulas facilitate death cafes, which some of you may have heard of. And a death cafe is basically a safe space with tea and cake, very important, where people can come and talk about, well, pretty much anything actually, but fundamentally associated with death and dying. And it may be somebody comes along because they're supporting someone who's had a terminal illness. We often have people who come along just because they would like to find out a little bit more. They are not ill themselves, they're not supporting anyone, but they're just interested in opening up more conversations around death and dying. We also run workshops. We run workshops for the public. We also have workshops within our organisation, so for continual professional development, and we can run workshops on things, for example, like advanced planning, so that people can actually put their affairs in order and organise things. We support community and voluntary groups. We're very happy to go along and talk to anybody that approaches us. And we also do festival and events. So I have done something actually with Mariana a couple of years ago at an international festival called Lifting the Lid, which is lifting the lid about talking about things that perhaps people don't want to talk about. And we did a whole thing on death and dying. And as I say, that was global, which was great. And it was attended by quite a lot of people across the world. Our chair, Emma Clare, is actually doing something in Switzerland next week at a festival. And there is also a festival called Pushing Up the Daisies, which was started by one of our original doulas, Mary Clare. And it's the most amazing thing. It's a community event up in Todmorden in the north of England. And I think they have a week. It certainly started with a week, and they have all different events all through that week. Crafting events and death cafes and creative workshops, all sorts of things for the whole community, and everybody comes together. And I've never been, I'd love to go, but apparently it's very, very special. So yeah, we do all sorts of things in the community, and if people invite us and want us to go somewhere, we're there. We are End of Life Doula UK. We are a membership organisation, so we have, I think, approximately 320 members now. So we've really grown. When I joined, I think I was something like member 180, and that was 5 years ago. We are not only across the UK, we have some people abroad. We have a small community of doulas in Sweden. We have some people in Germany, in Ireland. Can't remember where else. I think that's probably it at the moment. But we're growing all the time, and that's, you know, that's fabulous. We are at the moment applying for charitable status, which is very exciting. We set standards, so our doulas have to have trained with Living Well, Dying Well, which is our sister organisation. We provide mentoring, and our doulas who have referrals through us have to have a mentor. We say that's very, very important. And we run CPD sessions. Again, it's really important that doulas keep up to date with all sorts of different things across the board, and we run those sessions for them. We are a central point of contact for those seeking end-of-life doula support. So we have a number, a telephone number that people can call. We have a team of people that will answer those calls and take the original referral, if you like. And then those people that actually want to follow through, because often, and our team spend sometimes quite a long time on the telephone with people that call up. It can be an hour or so. And I think probably about 30% of the time, people at the end of that call will say, well, thank you, you've really, really helped me. But actually, I think at the moment, you know, that's fine. I don't need a doula. But when people decide, yes, they would like to take it further, referrals are made then obviously on a geographical basis. And we try, although as we're getting bigger, it gets more difficult, but we do try and match people, if possible, with the person that's being referred. And we're 24 hours, 7 days a week. So, you know, there are also ways of, another way of making a referral is that you can go onto the website and there's a contact form which people can fill in, and then that goes through to our referrals team and they take it from there and, you know, match people up. So, yeah, thank you. So you may ask what our credibility is. Professor Alan Kelleher, who is one of our patrons, is an ambassador for compassionate communities, and he's very keen and very hot on the fact that, you know, like we say, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, in a way, it takes a community to care for somebody who's at end of life, and he's very keen on all that. Our patrons are Dr. Catherine Mannix, who is a retired palliative care consultant. She's written a couple of books, which I don't know, some of you may have heard of. One is called With the End in Mind. That was her first book. And her second book is called Listen. Both are great reads and I can highly recommend them. Cormac Russell is also one of our patrons, and Greg Wise, the actor. He cared for his sister at the end of her life when she was dying of breast cancer. And actually, he wrote an amazing book called Not That Kind of Love about his journey caring for Emma, his sister. As I mentioned before, our members all have to, at the moment, our members all have to have trained with Living Well, Dying Well. And that's certified training. There is a diploma attached to that. We're a membership body. We provide quality assured training as well. Everybody has to be DBS checked and insured to work with a client. We have a code of practice that very strict that we want our members to stick to. As I mentioned, we're mentored, and I'll come on to this in a little while, but we have actually been commissioned by the NHS in a couple of regions, which is really exciting. So I'll come on to that in a minute. So our NHS commission projects. So we've had two. The first one was in Leeds in the north of England, and that started in May 2022. The second one was down here in London, in southwest London, in Kingston and Richmond, and that started in December 2023. We were funded by the NHS, and we had a team of doulas working in both places. And the objectives were that we could increase the rates of and the quality of advanced care planning for people, that we could reduce rates of hospital admissions in the last weeks, because often people really don't actually want to die in hospital. They'd much rather be at home. And also that we could increase carer well-being and reduce stress on carers, because, as I'm sure many of you know, carers do the most amazing job, and it's unpaid and often goes unnoticed, but it is very, very stressful and very, very tiring. So those were our objectives. So in Leeds, how did we work? It was our pilot project. It was the first thing we'd ever done. So we had no idea how it was going to go. There were, as you may imagine, many, many meetings before it started, just working out exactly how things would work, not only from our point of view, but also from the NHS's point of view. So we ended up receiving over 250 referrals. We had a team of 11 end-of-life doulas working within the region. And we said that any health and social care professional could make a referral to us through that project. We did have criteria for referrals, but we did encourage case-by-case discussions, and that did happen. Probably, I think most of those referrals were within the last year of somebody's life, and that's what we encouraged. And particularly if they needed help with advocacy or advanced care planning. So far, Leeds is finished. It's wrapped up. It has been independently evaluated by the Open University. And they've been looking at the timing of referrals and how the teams dealt with those referrals. It definitely improved the well-being of those both at end of life and those caring for them or close to them. We think it potentially reduced hospital admission. Early data does suggest that. And also it reduced, we think, the GP call-outs. We have sent out a carer survey. So we are hoping that by the end of this year, we will have the full evaluation and data available, but we haven't got everything wrapped up yet. As you may imagine, it takes quite a long time. So coming on to Southwest London, Kingston and Richmond, that began almost a year ago, and we had a team of 12 doulas in London working on that. And again, there were self-referrals and referrals from hospital staff, but also from local hospice and district nursing teams. And that worked really, really well. We had some fantastic feedback, actually. We received 38 referrals, and out of those 38 referrals, we supported 23 people and those people around them, those people who were helping them and maybe caring for them. And the evaluation of that service is in process too. So what we found actually was we supported 142 people in Leeds and 23 in South West London. We most definitely increased advanced planning discussions. Preliminary analysis, which, as I mentioned before, is not quite finished, but preliminary analysis suggests that around 95% of people ended up dying in their preferred place of death. And that's compared with 79.4% before we did the two projects. We definitely increased carer well-being and reduced their stress. We filled the gaps in existing support and adapted to responding to new ones. We did reduce GP and hospice call-outs. And we had feedback that the use of end-of-life doulas to provide community-based end-of-life support had benefits for those receiving both the support, also for health and social care professionals, the healthcare system overall, and for doulas themselves. End-of-life doulas are uniquely and ideally placed to improve and mobilise community end-of-life care and to bridge existing services and community resources. So our key messages really are our ethos is all about compassionate communities and working alongside joined up care and centering the person to draw from their circle of support. So the person at end of life is very much the center of how we work, and sort of everything else, if you like, goes out from that. So their care system, so the people closest to them, their family or friends around them, then the services that are coming in to treat them. And so it's very much the community, but at each level. Some of the best examples of our work, which is where people have died in the way they wanted, where they wanted, and with the people they wanted, have been possible, as I said, because of this collaboration between end-of-life doulas and other services. And we hope that, you know, opportunities like having been able to work both in the north of England and in South West London not only have provided services to those we did provide services to, but perhaps have actually introduced us to people who may not have heard of us otherwise. So we're always happy to talk about our work, as I'm doing today here. And again, thank you to Overcome for inviting us. We do really try and describe how we work in hospitals, hospices and care homes with health and social care professionals. We have teams of doulas all over the place that do this and that have very, very good relationships with their local services. And we're always happy, as I said, to host talks, workshops, to meet with community groups, to meet with local GP services. You know, talking to a GP practice can be incredibly helpful, both for us and for the GPs. And we have a website, End of Life Doula UK, that anyone can contact us on, completing the contact form as I described earlier, and then we can arrange for a doula to have a conversation with you. So that's our website, www.eol-doula.uk. If you need to contact us for any reason, that's the email address, operations@eol-doula.uk. We're on all the social media channels. And at the moment, we are a CIC, but we are applying for charitable status. So things are changing in the structure as well, which is very exciting. So thank you.
So if anything has occurred to you that you'd like to find out more about from Judy, please do enter your questions. And if I read those out, that will be without a name. So, you know, that's kind of confidential as well. I had a question, Judy. what's your favorite thing about the work that you do? If you could pin it down, what's
my favorite thing? That's a really good question. I think actually my favorite thing is meeting people. It has given me the opportunity to meet so many people in all sorts of different walks of life and through different aspects of the work that I would never have had the opportunity to meet had I not been doing this work. And that to me is such a joy. Yeah, I love meeting people anyway. But yeah, I guess if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that you meet a real range of people as well that perhaps, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to do otherwise.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're quite right. So that's definitely it. And being able to do, very different things that perhaps I'd never dreamt that I would be doing in my 60s. Extraordinary. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're quite right in saying that, firstly, a lot of people have never heard of an end-of-life doula, or if they have, that perhaps, they've got some misconceptions that they hold around, what that might look like. So if there's sort of one key takeaway that you'd like people to sort of pocket or hold on to today, what would that be?
Don't be afraid about asking any questions and talking about death and dying. There's nothing that's taboo.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's something that we really try to actively support at Overcome as well. So, anybody listening, if this has kind of sparked some thoughts or anything at all that you'd like to ask or talk through, as I said at the start, please do pick up the phone or drop us an email. We'd be really happy to help with that, and signpost to End of Life Doula as well if you want us to put you in touch. But thank you for sharing your contact details and the website as well, Judy, so that people can have an explore of that in their own time. So thank you so much, Judy, Mariana, those of you attending as well. We will now draw our session to a close, but as I say, we will send that follow-up email with the link to the video, the link to the recording when that's available, so that you can watch it back again in your own time. And just to reiterate, any questions at all for either us or for Judy and Mariana, if you get in touch with support@overcome.org.uk, we can make sure that the right person gets the right question. So thank you very much for coming along, and we'll end there.